So, welcome to Consumption Conversations. And with us today, we have Kasia Stasiuk from Poland. And Kasia, would you introduce yourself?
Hello, Valerie. Thank you very much for the possibility to take part in the consumption conversations. I'm Katarzyna Stasiuk. I'm associate professor at Jagiellonian University in Krakow, in Poland. I'm psychologist. My background is social psychology. However, over the past several years, I shifted to the consumer psychology, also with interest in sustainability. My recent work is also interdisciplinary oriented. I collaborate with legal scholars and try to apply insights from consumer psychology and empirical research to legal contexts, especially intellectual property law and consumer protection law. As to sustainability, our research focuses on how legal regulations may affect implementation of circular economy practices. For example, in our Rust research was related to the problem of branded materials that upcyclers use in their designs. I'm also expert witness in litigations related to trademark infringement and unfair marketing practices. And this work allows me to bridge scientific knowledge with practice. And I also do something completely different. I'm under the certification as a cognitive behavioral psychotherapist, which is very interesting for me, however, less related to consumer psychology.
Oh, that's a very interesting background you have, and obviously a lot of experience to bring to the table. So, from your experience and from your outlook, how do you see the way we are going, and how do you see how it would be the most effective ways and directions in which you think we should look for getting to more sustainable lifestyles?
I just think that we go in the wrong direction, and I'm sure that I share this opinion with many people. I think that we lost our respect for nature. We can't coexist with nature. The consumption is still growing, and at the same time, many people denied climate changes, even the presidents of the powerful nations. And maybe not our generation, but for sure the next generations will pay for our way of living. And as to your questions about the way to the more sustainable lifestyle, I think that it depends on aligning external system with internal motivation. Things like infrastructure, policy, regulations should be easy and affordable to support the sustainable behaviors. However, even the best design system will not work if people don't feel personally responsible and or don't think about the impact of their actions. The good example can be the waste segregation. The rules are quite clear. Information on how to do it properly is broadly available. However, still many people, at least in Poland, don't segregate their waste correctly. Another example, many cities have implemented policy to support public transport by offering subsidies or expanding infrastructure. However, still many people choose to drive a car alone out of convenience or habit. And this is partly because there is a lack of sustainability values, and some people don't believe that their action truly make a difference. And without this sense of meaning or impact, even the best design policy or regulations will not fully work, in my opinion.
Who are the other agents who would have the most effective influence on the way consumers are behaving? And let's take Poland as a case example and say, well, how would you bring the consumers into more sustainable behavior if you had, let's assume the courts are there, they had a good, clear level of legislation, a code of how to act, and the business partners were willing. Your expertise was in social psychology and social behavior. So what is the most effective way we can harness and bring in people on board in a way that would be acceptable and they were willing to go ahead and do it?
What I would say will not refer to only to Poland. It will be more general. Then later I can refer to the specific Polish context or culture. I was listening to your previous consumption conversations, and I totally agree with your guests about the role of governments, municipalities, business, or consumers themselves as an agents. What I would add from my psychological perspective is another important agent, and I mean family environment, especially parents or caregivers. Their influence starts early and runs deep and is so strong that it can shape not only behaviors but also long-term attitudes and values. And usually this influence goes not with the formal instructions but with modeling, with everyday behaviors and choices that child can observe. So when parents consistently demonstrate the pro-sustainable approach, conserving energy, reducing waste, being more mindful about the consumption, this approach may become the part of child's, let's say, implicit understanding what the normal behavior is. And this observational learning, which is rooted in the social learning theory by Albert Bandura, is the most effective in the early development. Then, with the time, these observed behaviors and sustainable parents' approach can be internalized and form a background for the future pro-sustainability values.
Can a family behavior manage to combat a strong social pressure on adolescents of shopping, purchasing, showing that it comes from the world of advertising? Are we managing to enable families to make those social norms that you think are so important?
The overcoming of the influence of the consumerism culture certainly would be difficult and would take time. Since the formation of the new values and new norms always takes time. And it will be difficult also because we are within this culture. We live in this culture every day. And the behaviors like giving material gifts, buying new items, following the newest trends are socially reinforced. And within this culture, parents very often feel the pressure to conform these norms, especially that we as a parents, we want our children to be accepted by the peer group. And in the certain age, being accepted by the peer group um, depends heavily of the material goods that the children possess, like new Nike, a new iPhone, or whatever is currently on the top. So even if parents don't agree with the growing consumption and don't really think that their children need the new shoes or new mobile phone, sometimes they buy it because they want their children to be the part of the group. And in this way, it is very easy to get drawn in the race of who has more, who has better, who has newer. However, still, I think that the impact of the family is so strong that it can maybe not overcome, but weaken the impact of the consumerism culture. And the influence of the family, maybe in a teenager, it may disappear. However, when the impact of the peer group weakens, it can reappear again.
But you would concentrate on the early years, not a formal school teaching system, but the atmosphere, the social norms which the child and the adolescent sees around him as he's growing up. And how then would you, is there a strengthening or keeping, supporting the cultural importance of the family and the family behavior and activities? Is there a cultural support for that in Poland, in Polish culture and society?
In Poland, children grow up in the culture when strong family ties are a very important part of everyday life. And this is a long-standing tradition in our country that encourages people to think first and foremost about their families. And sociologists call this phenomena, this way of thinking, familism. And of course, it has many positives. It helps build the strong and supportive family relationships, or build a strong feeling of responsibility to one another. However, it has also some downsides, as it may turn to immoral families. When people focus too much on what is the best for their family, and they somehow overlook the broader social or environmental issues. The striking example from Poland is the situation that the many families still continue to use and the cheapest and the most polluting coal to heat their houses. And from their perspective, it is the most practical and affordable solution, and it allows them to feel comfortable during the cold season. However, on the broader scale, it contributes, this kind of decisions contribute to air pollution and to public health problems, especially in the urban and highly populated area.
Has that changed over the decades? Was it similar in communist time? Did it change after Poland came out of communism? Is it something strong, particularly today, or is it something which has always been there and it has no relationship with the governance system and political system of the country?
In fact, during the communistic time, the families in Poland was even stronger. It was firstly because people didn't trust to system and to institutions, so they relied heavily on their family networks. Secondly, during this time, the life in Poland was really difficult. There were the problems even with the basic goods. So it was quite challenging to meet even the basic needs of the family. I was a child during the communistic time, but I still remember the long queues for the meat or for the toilet paper and empty shelves in the stores. So it was quite natural that people focused on their families and on their households, not on the society and on the environmental issues. Um, of course, communistic regime promoted the idea of common good and collective values. However, there were rather political slogans. That's something that people really followed. And during this time, the government had the initiative that was called in Polish czyn społeczny. It can be translated as social action. It is the form of semi-voluntary labor for the common good without pay, like cleaning the pavements, for example. And it was officially presented as the social initiatives to build the socialist society. However, in fact, people felt obliged to take part in this initiative because they were afraid of the professional or social consequences.
So what happened after it became post-communism and it started getting better, easier, more income availability? What has happened today? And now if you look to the future, and Poland is a part of the European Union and feels a strong part of Europe and is confident in its own open system. Is this something that was a focus then and is going to get weakened as people become more and more individualistic? Is that what you think maybe in the future?
During the communistic time, people in Poland had roughly the same, which wasn't much. There were not a lot of social inequalities, but there were also not a lot of alternatives. People in Poland was looking to the West. The West was better, the more comfortable, more funny, more colorful. And when mm, after the system has changed in 1989 and all of these goods and brands appeared in the Polish stores, people felt like this is the West that entered the Poland finally. And buying everything what they wanted was the symbol of being the part of this Western culture. Uh, However, it was not only this. It was also for some people. It was also the emotional reaction because for some people, this transformation time was difficult, full of uncertainty, stress, sometimes job loss. So the consumption allowed them to feel better, to gain control, to show their material status. And together with this, the advertisement came to Poland, and media started to promote the ideal way of living, which was the Western way of living. So people started to compare themselves to each other and to show to show their material status. And it was a time when the conspicuous consumption has started in Poland. And let's try to combine it with what I previously said about the family as an agent, as the agent of change. Uh, in fact, many parents in Poland didn't grow up in their families with a strong pro-sustainability values. So now they don't have the reference point how the mm, sustainable behaviors should be in their everyday life. And this contributes to the self-perpetuating cycle of unsustainable habits that are passed down from one generation to the next. And this transmission is not only because of the indifference or the neglect, but it is because the parents just don't have the possibility to internalize or to normalize sustainable behaviors. And I think that in Poland, we still need the time to overcome or to stop this self-perpetuating cycle.
But if I ask you or say in Poland anything that's related to sharing economy, a collective, cooperative, is there an immediate reticence to go that way because people said no, that was the communist era. We're not going that way any longer. Or from a sustainability point of view, if we can get people to do things together, to share things together, we can get a lower material footprint and still have the good life. Is that a possibility in the dialogue in Poland, or is it seen as being going back to where they didn't want to be and associated with not having freedom?
Sharing economy in Poland is rather niche than the mainstream. I know the results of the study showing that only about 18% of people are familiar with the concept of sharing economy and use the sharing economy practices. There were mainly young people about 50 or after 50, who are quite a big group in Poland, they don't know sharing economy concept, and they don't use it. And also the place of living matters. Sharing economy is more popular in cities than in the towns or villages. However, I also know some more optimistic results showing, for example, that about 20% of people in Poland use carpooling, and more than 30% rent or are willing to rent the electronic goods. Also, our studies on circular economy practices are more optimistic. And in one of the study that was focused on refurbishment and consumer attitudes and knowledge on refurbishment, more than half of our percent of our respondents declared that they were familiar with the refurbishment concept, and more than 30% have ever bought the refurbished good. We had also 20% of people who declared that they wouldn't like to buy the refurbished goods. And when we asked them why, they answered that they just prefer to have new products. And in fact, I'm not sure if it is because of the communistic time, and maybe it can be the reason, but if it is a reason, I think that people are not aware of the link between the communism and their unwillingness to buy refurbished goods or use sharing economy. However, maybe we especially the older generation, maybe we carry the memory of the past. And when we remember our mothers who were constantly repairing our clothes, not because they wanted to do it, but because it was difficult to buy new ones. And we remember the younger children that had to wear whatever the older children outgrown. So maybe this kind of memories influence our unwillingness to use pre-owned goods or to share goods. However, it is only my assumption. As I said, there's not a lot of people in Poland who are currently engaging in using circular economy or sharing economy practices. However, we have the slowly growing interest in this kind of activities. But it should be noted that the environmental issues are not the main reason for engaging in these practices. The financial reasons are the most important. In our research on refurbishment, people said that the main motive for them to buy the refurbished good is because it is cheaper than the newer one. So the environmental issues can be rather the added value. So people can think that it is nice while they buy the cheaper products, refurbished products, and they save money using the carpooling. It is nice to help the environment as the side benefit. However, it is not the main motive for the buying decision or consumers' decisions.
So finally, Kasia, what would be the subject that you would like to see more dialogue in the SCORAI agenda?
In fact, I'm quite new in SCORAI, so I'm not aware of the issues that you have already discussed, but maybe what I would consider is talking about the legal problems in the context of sustainability, consumers, and business. It can be interesting because some new challenges have emerged together with the new regulations aimed at promoting the sustainable consumption and business. Mm, the example can be the problems with intellectual property rights or trademark rights. Sometimes they conflict with sustainable goals or circular economy practices like refurbishing or upcycling. Um, Secondly, I would discuss how we as the organization can promote and share our knowledge with the public. So, in other words, how we as the SCORAI can become the agent of change.
Okay, that was a nice conversation. Thank you very much, Cassia, for joining me, and I wish you a good week.
Thank you very much, Valerie, for the talk, and have a nice week.